sound bites afterwards if you want to get some specific quotes to start dropping down.
I don't know quotes, but
Okay, I have them. You'll
You have
read through
quotes?
quotes. Of course, little tidbits for you to do. We're gonna explode this one.
Mamaronic.
Mamaroneck.
Oh my God.
I'm here in Westchester, New York. Okay, nobody's coming to Mamaroneck looking for us.
All right, what's
Say, dude, just keep talking in the white room. There's a QR code. There's a white room. That's it.
Yeah, is that in there?
Yep.
Okay.
In a lot of the pictures.
It's
that I'm
in
taking.
the shot in the pictures, yeah, I took pictures.
All right. No pressure.
None of this is pressure.
You're a pro.
I don't.
200
Breathe,
episodes.
John.
Huh?
Breathe.
I'm good. I'm good.
Okay.
I won't bite, I promise.
Okay, good.
Crush him.
Absolutely not.
No, this is easy.
Good. We're rolling. Okay. Well, I'm here to interview you, Vanessa, for episode 200 of Life's Checkmark podcast. We are at the White Room in Westchester, New York. So thank you for coming out. I know it was a little bit of a ride for you, as it was for me too. But I want to go back a little bit too, and so that it was a little bit over a year now since we met in person at the White Room. And I remember, real quick, we'll touch on this. I was hosting a podcast event here, and you came, and so I had you on my podcast, episode 100, and you said, "Oh, I'm going to show up and be there to support you, meet you." Great, but we have room for an extra speaker, and so I wanted to ask, and I did, if you could speak on being a guest, which you'll be on podcast or something, in the next week or so, but you took on that role and showed up. And I remember you saying something to me a couple months ago when we last spoke. And do you remember what that was?
Oh, I've said some memorable things to you. You're going to need to remind me.
Okay. So what I remember was that I taught you a lesson. And,
Oh, yes.
Okay. Would you like to share that?
There were lots of lessons
Okay.
that day, but the most important lesson was to always say yes and be ready. Just be ready. And I found myself not quite ready, but so excited for the opportunity. The fact that you gave me 20 minutes of your time and of the audience's time to share from my perspective what it's like to actually be a guest. And not only just be a guest, but be a good guest. So much so that you get invited back. So I am so honored to be here with you for your episode 200. That's not a small feat. So kudos to you. Congratulations on that.
Yes. Thank you. It's
Absolutely.
a lot. That's for sure.
It absolutely is.
Yeah.
And you've learned so much along the way, even from 0 to 100. And we spoke about that.
Mm-hmm.
But from 100 to 200, oh boy, John, you have it has been a wonderful journey for you. And I'm so ridiculously proud of you. And I'm so honored and humbled to be in front of you and your featured guest number 200.
Yeah, thank you. I do want to share that, when you did speak and after we spoke, a couple months ago, you did say to come dressed as if you were going to be a speaker wherever you go. So I remember that. And, it's something to think about. Not that I'm dressing up like I'm going to be a speaker wherever I go, but it's something to think about, right? So how do you want to show up? How do you want to present yourself, and still be you, right? And not show up as like I'm this business guy in this suit all the time and you're not, right? So you sharing that made me think too, as I go on adventures in life, right? How do I want to dress when I go to some kind of event? And, if maybe one day I might be asked to be a speaker, last minute speaker. I did go to an event last year, and it came to a point where the guy had to fill in a spot because somebody couldn't make it. And so I think it wasn't on the spot, but he had a panel, and so he was able to switch it up. And so that's the things that we have to think about a little bit. So it's been, 200 episodes, right? So a little over a year, and and I know a lot has changed. So what have you switched up in your life, your business?
There has been so much that has changed, but I want to go back just to that because there was something really important with that. Because there was another lesson that I've learned that I absolutely want to share. You never know who you're going to be talking to. And I have it's a short story, but it's a really good one. My daughter was dating a young man in high school, and he would come to our house and sit in our kitchen at our island and speak, and I say that loosely, very shy. And I would ask him, so, Josh, what do you want to do? And he would mumble what he wants to do. And I finally pulled it out of him. Well, he wanted to work for the Jets. And I looked at him. He wasn't a football player. And he's like, no, I want to be in the back office. I want to just be able to touch the Jets. And every time he came to our house, I would ask him, Josh, what do you want to do? And I started to get him to perfect his pitch, what he wants to do. Well, we now fast forward 6 years later. He's in college. He's wearing his college sweatshirt. He's working. He's a waiter. And, he's halfway across the country at school. But he's got his university sweater on. And he's, of course, 2 businessmen come in for lunch. And one of them asks, so, what do you want to do? And without missing a beat, he went right into his pitch about wanting to work for the Jets. And the gentleman looked at him so shocked, and then looked at his partner across and said, he works for the Jets. And that's all it took. They exchanged a business card. He called him up. He got an internship that summer. He called, not to speak to my daughter, but to speak to me, to thank me for all of that practice. So you never know who you are going to meet, who you are going to talk to. So besides dressing the part, being ready to speak, also be ready to say what you want. That was another key lesson. So thank you for the opportunity for sharing that, because that was really important, and I wanted to share that. So what has happened for me in this last year? I am no longer Westchester County's best kept secret.
Mm-hmm.
I was nominated and awarded the best relationship coach in Westchester County. That appeared on Facebook and all the social medias. I wasn't even aware that I was nominated, let alone that I had won. And suddenly, oh boy, that took off. And suddenly the phone was ringing off the hook. Now, for the longest time, I had been providing my services, relationship coaching, in the evenings and on weekends. As you and I have spoken before, I really only see 2 clients a day. That's my choice, because I want to give people the opportunity to be able to have that runway, to be able to speak what's going on in their relationships. Because our relationships with our partners, those are the best ones. They absolutely are. The other ones are in the outskirts, but the nucleus of us is the most important. So I always want to give my clients the opportunity. And suddenly, I had a wait list. And I absolutely love it. I love working with couples and giving them the opportunity to get out what is troubling them before they get to the point where they're uttering the D word, divorce.
Mm-hmm.
So, but in that respect, sometimes divorce is the solution. I'm not there to judge. It doesn't matter whether you choose to stay or to go or to pause. Sometimes that's all we need in our relationships, is a pause to slow it all down and kind of really see what's going on. Because statistics don't lie. Yes, we're at a 50% divorce rate. That's a high number. And of the 50% that do get divorced, many, it's over 50%, say, I'll never get married again. I'll never get married again because it was such a contentious divorce. And then they get married again. They do. And of those that get married again, you ready for this statistic? 6% marry their ex. Wow. And usually the comment related to that is that when the dust finally settled and everybody could breathe and everybody could pause and everybody could communicate, they realized they could actually repair what was broken. That, for me, is promising. It is. But again, I hold no judgment whether people decide that they want to end their relationship or they actually want to work and rebuild it. And my main concern is that if it's a contentious relationship, that the ex doesn't become part of the next relationship. Because a lot of people that have been in a second relationship after a long-term marriage do describe that second relationship as an awakening for them, because they've learned from the first one, and therefore they're applying a lot of the principles into their second one. So what I've been doing this last year is working with couples to allow for them to make those decisions. And I love it. I absolutely love it.
What do you love the most about it?
I love when couples come into my office, because I have a love seat. I don't have a sofa, because a sofa allows for that distance. We don't want that distance. Mm-hmm. So there's a love seat. Yes, sometimes they hug the corner of the love seat, but for the most part, they are sitting shoulder to shoulder, because shoulder to shoulder is really important. It's non-confrontational. Whereas if you're sitting in two chairs, if we turned and faced each other head on, it would feel a little odd, unless we had a table in between us. But without a table, without a barrier, it's very exposing and it's very contentious and it can get very heated right away. Mm-hmm. So I have couples come into my office and you can tell just by their mannerisms, by the words that they use, that they're just exhausted. They're broken. They don't know what to do. And 90 minutes later, they have a roadmap. They have a game plan. They actually have smiled at some point. And if there is a belly laugh in our 90 minutes, I know that there is a possibility. When both partners are willing to come together to work on it, the possibilities are endless. And when they leave my office, setting up the next appointment, knowing that they're going to come back and they're going to get something. They're actually going to leave with something tangible, something to work on, and that there's hope. And for me, hope is hold on, pain ends. Because it does. It doesn't happen overnight. There's no grand epiphany. But incrementally, it does start to happen. Because the resentments and the issues that cause the relationship to fall apart, they didn't happen overnight. It was incrementally over months and years, maybe even decades, because they stopped talking. And now we're opening up the lines of communication. And I initially was worried when I opened up my schedule for 90-minute sessions. Most do 60 minutes. But when I was going through my own challenges in my marriage, I was very, very upset with our support team, with our army of support that we had. Because I would get into something as the client, I'd be crying, that ugly crying, and I would feel that tension moving and something was going to give. And then I'd get the, time's up, we'll pick this up next week. And that I didn't like. That I did not like at all. So when I got into this work, I vowed that I wouldn't do that I would give the 90 minutes, that long enough runway to actually get something done. And if necessary, I buffer my appointments by an extra hour. So we have 2.5 hours to really get into something. And I love that. I love that aspect that couples are willing to do that work. They put aside their phones are on silent, but they are committed to trying. And when you're committed to trying and you have that willingness to do so, what we focus on expands. So if we can focus on being better, being a better spouse, being a better husband, being a better father, being a better man, being a better wife, being a better woman, being better, just better, the possibilities just open up. They truly do.
Yeah. So is it normally just one person that's reaching out to you out of the couple to say, hey, let's get help?
Yes, it is usually one that does so.
Mhm.
And I always encourage that both come. Because if only one comes and then brings in the other, the one that's being brought in feels at a disadvantage. They just do. They feel like it's 2 against 1. And I never want anyone to feel that way. I have a New York grit to me. I say what needs to be said, not what people want to hear.
Mhm.
So with that being said, sometimes the one spouse will be on the hot seat for a while, and then I'll release them and go to the other partner and they get on the hot seat, and then I will purposely say something that I believe is going to upset both of them so that they can be upset with me, because that takes the attention off of each other, and now they're united about disagreeing with me. That's what I want. That's the possibility. That's the opening that I have to know that they can unite on something. And if they can unite on something, they can unite on having a better relationship.
What's an example that you would use to make them turn against you?
One of the one of the great examples that I have done is I usually mention, and I said, well, I need a little bit of clarity. I think what I'm hearing is that you're not really a good father. And immediately the husband will defend himself. And most of the time the wife will defend him as well and say, oh, no, I never said that. He's a great father. And sometimes he needs to hear that. He needs to hear his wife acknowledge that he's a good father. And they, united, will agree that he's a good father against me, which is absolutely fine. I welcome it when that example happens and she agrees with me that he's not a good father. Oh, different dynamic, something else we have to work on and get that sense going differently. Yes, when couples are in a relationship crisis, he's not a good husband, she's not a good wife. But parenting, oh, no. Can't attack them as parents. I will. Whether it's true or not, I will, because I want them to unite on something. Because then they get to hear the perspective of their partner.
Yeah. So I know you already answered my question. One person reaches out, but what's going to take a couple to say, "Hey, we need help," and then they reach out to you, right?
Yes, it is challenging. One of the things is that I am not a therapist, so I am not a marriage counselor. I am not a marriage therapist. I'm an alternative to that. So that eases the stigma of it a little bit. So it's not, oh, we're in counseling, we're in therapy. We're in coaching. It's more promising. It's more of a uplifting situation. Because I have a very large digital footprint, most people in Westchester County can find me. They can see me all over YouTube. Gratefully, I have over 500 videos. I've been doing this work since 2017. And because of that, I do have a large body of work. In addition, I do have a book, and it was recently endorsed by one of the top doctors in Westchester County, Dr. Serena DeStefano from Phelps Memorial Hospital. She endorsed my book, which was a blessing. She absolutely loves it. My book is dealing with the devastation of your partner's betrayal, what to do when your world falls apart. And it is the guidebook that I needed when I was going through my own betrayal. And you and I talked about that on episode 100, and we connected that way, actually. And I love the work that I do, and I hope that it resonates out. I write a lot. I have over 100 articles on Medium, over almost 50 articles on Substack. I write about this topic in a very logical is not the right word. I just write from the heart. I just write from my perspective because I went through this. I've been married. Yes, I'm still married. 35 years, still married. Did we have those speed bumps? Hell yeah.
Oh, did you?
Yes, we had a lot of them. We had a lot of speed bumps. Did we have a lot of stop signs? Oh yeah, we did. Did we face that brick wall that on the top of it says divorce? Yeah, we faced that as well. We looked at it, and we both had the willingness to do the work necessary to rebuild our marriage, to reset our relationship, because we're two different people now. I'm not the same woman I was before the betrayal, and he's not the same man. And somebody really wise said to me early on, and I didn't believe it. I dismissed it. And then she, 6 months later, had to say it to me again so I could actually hear it. Vanessa, you're going to have a new relationship. You get to decide who that's with. I chose my husband. I saw the work that he was doing. I saw his capacity to be a better man, a better husband, a better father. And that's when I knew, yeah, we're gonna rebuild. We're gonna do it. And we're now almost 10 years removed from that. And I'm grateful. I know that sounds strange, to be grateful for something so catastrophic, so monumental in your life. But without it, I wouldn't be sitting here with you. I wouldn't be helping my community by helping individual couples rebuild their relationship, because it trickles out. It absolutely trickles out. When we have those emotional ruptures in our relationships, we really start to hurt. And when we're hurting, the people around us, strangers, notice. And how we behave, how we act. Why do you think road rage is so predominant? People have so much pressure on them. And then you add the pressure of the nucleus relationship, the most important relationship that you have, and it's rupturing. How do you get past that? You don't heal in a silo. You do need help. And it's okay to ask for help. It absolutely is. And as I said, I'm the alternative to therapy. I don't work necessarily for long durations of time. No, we get to work right away. That first 90 minutes of our initial foundation session, we jump right into it. There's no, let's gingerly talk about this. No, we get right into it. Let's work on something. Can we make an agreement? Can we do an incremental shift? Similar to a kaleidoscope. You're familiar with a kaleidoscope. You look through it and you see a pattern with colors. You turn it 1 degree and it changes. That's all I want from my clients. That's all I want from all of us. Change your perspective by 1 degree and the pattern completely changes. And the possibilities open up.
So did you seek help when you were trying to work on your? Okay.
Oh, absolutely. I had a whole army.
How would you say somebody should be searching for help, and what would motivate them to want to reach for help? And I share this because of me, right? It took me just reaching out to strangers, and I had no idea who to turn to. So I love to get your thoughts and experience on that.
We live in such a digital world now that yes, you can go onto Facebook and all of that and just kind of anonymously, which is a great feature now because we didn't have that feature back then. Anonymously post, hey, I'm having some relationship issues. Does anybody recommend anyone? Yes, you'll get flooded with everybody. be sure, and this is my personal request, it's not me that you have to use, but please vet whoever you decide to talk to. Have a conversation with them, see their digital footprint, ask others. My topic, my role is a very dark space. Nobody's going to be like, hey, I got betrayed, I got cheated on, I'm having trouble in my marriage. People will not announce it. But if they see a familiar face, if they explore online, they can do so. My suggestions would be to start with Google. Google is I find a very safe space, because Google reviews, they do need to be vetted. They need to be an actual Google review. Whereas on a website or even on Facebook, all the bots and everything else, you don't quite know what you're looking at. But look for those referrals and just ask. And I would suggest within your local community, start there. Could you do it over Zoom? Of course you can. But there's something about the screen. Look at us. Mm-hmm. For episode 100, we did it over a screen. Now I get to actually have you right in front of me. Such a difference in the dynamic. And that's what I prefer. I prefer that people come into my office so that I can hear the inflection. I can see all of the body language that's going on. Because when you're on Zoom, it's just here. You don't see what's going on. You don't see the foot going. You don't see the hand gesture. Yeah, you might catch the rolling of the eyes, but especially if you have 3 people on screen, you've had that, where you have to pay attention to everything on screen. And people do not open up in such a way, at least I have found in my experience, they don't open up in such a way as they do when they're in front of you. And it's something about that cross energy that you feel. And when they have a moment and they need a tissue and they reach for the box of tissues, or this is my favorite, one needs the box of tissues, but the tissues, they're strategically always placed out of reach so that either that person has to get up, or better yet, their partner reaches for the box of tissues. When their partner reaches for the box of tissues, that's another indication to me that they have a willingness to try to make this work.
You mean reach for it to give to them?
To give to them,
Gotcha.
Absolutely. It shows that they are paying attention. That they're paying attention to the language, to the body language. They're seeing their partner starting to get choked up, male or female. I get it both. There was a little bit of a situation where I found myself that every single client I had, like in a week, were crying in my office. And I kind of felt like, wow, am I doing something to really upset people that they're crying in my office? And I have a coach. And I presented it to my coach. I'm like, yeah, I'm doing really well with clients. I'm excited that they're finding me online and my digital footprint is working and my Google reviews and so forth and so on. But they come into my office and I'm going through boxes of tissues because they're crying. And she said to me, crying or tears are tears of cleansing. Look at it that way. And then you're almost encouraging them to cry because of that. So yes, the box of tissues for me is an indication, 1, I'm on the right path as a coach. And number 2, when I see their partner reach for it for them, I know that we're going to start making some progress.
So they're crying to let their emotions out, right? So a lot of people hold that in. Why do people hold their emotions in?
Judgment, first and foremost, vulnerability, especially the men that come into my office. They want to show their strength. They don't want to cry in front of their spouse. They don't want to cry in front of me. They feel that it shows weakness. I'm going to disagree wholeheartedly, and I tell them it's not weakness. It's actually strength. It is incredible strength to let your guard down and to let it all out. It's got to come out. And if it doesn't come out, it really eats you up from the inside out. Why do that to yourself? Why destroy yourself in that way when you can have that opportunity to have that release in a safe space and get it up and out?
Yeah, I know where you're coming from. And I hope you guys can relate to this as well. But do you think that's something that society has placed on men?
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
of course. Men, I'm sorry, men. Yeah. Disney has done you dirty. Absolutely. The strength and the prince and all of it. There's so many pressures on men and boys just to be in a certain mold, and you have to be a certain way, and you have a label, and you have a disposition, and this whole type of thing. We do tend to focus on the women and social media and the destructiveness towards women. It goes the other way. It absolutely goes the other way. Men are suffering. They are. There's loneliness. There is a lot of misguided men. Not their own fault. Absolutely not. Please don't misunderstand me on that. But we had a generation. We had the greatest generation. They refer to themselves that way in the 1950s. Men were the breadwinners. Women were home. They could have a one-income household. Families. Were there challenges? Of course there were challenges. There's always challenges. But it wasn't an epidemic of challenges. Then we kind of got into the 60s and 70s where there were women who were married. They were they were married single parents because their husbands were still the breadwinner, but now they had to work even more to sustain their family. Then, of course, in the 1970s and 80s, it was single mothers. They didn't really talk much about single fathers. There absolutely were. Same thing with stay-at-home moms. That became a very big thing. I'm a stay-at-home mom. Women wore it with pride. Well, my husband was a stay-at-home dad. This was almost 30 years ago. That was unheard of. He would go to PTA meetings. He'd be the only gentleman there. You know, it's the society that pigeonholes us into expectations that are not realistic. All we need is to be good, good, and good. We have to have our integrity. We have to be respectful. We have to be loving. And we have to recognize that the nucleus, first it starts with us. It starts with you. It always comes back to you. Then it's us, we and us. And then it's the family. And then it's the extended family. And then it's friends and acquaintances and work colleagues and so forth. That's what it is. But when we take the priority and move it inwards, we invert it, where our job is the most important thing, that's where the cracks start to form. Because we have our identity wrapped up in our job. Think of it at networking events. I struggled with networking events because the first question is, what do you do? Okay, and then the next question, or the incarnation of that question, really started to bother me, was, who are you with? As if that person is property of their company. And that really started to get to me, because all of us, are ourselves first and foremost. And then we are part of a relationship. And then we move out.
I like that. So I just want to jump in a little bit here. So you got this method, relationship reset method. Is that kind of like what you were just sharing about the couples coming in? Okay, so that's we already explained that, just not in those terms.
Not in those terms.
Right.
Relationship reset, for me, my methodology is extremely unique to every single couple. It's not cookie cutter. It absolutely isn't. There are aspects of it that are similar, that are same couple to couple, but for the most part, I work with whatever the situation is that is coming at the exact moment. And again, that goes back to when I was going through my own challenges, that I joined a very expensive, very upscale, because of course we're in Westchester, New York. I went into Manhattan, dealt with a guru, big, huge social media presence and so forth and so on, and did their program. 14-week program, very structured. And I found it so constricting because every time I had a particular issue, like I was really having a hard time with triggers, and I would get swatted. Oh, no, we're not talking about that. That's week 8. We're in week 3. Well, wait a second. I need help. I'm asking for help. This is what's going on for me. And you're shooing me away and telling me, oh, that's not until, can't you give me something? Give me something to hold on to. Give me hope so that I know that I'm going to be okay. But rather than that, it's like, oh, no. Pay attention to this. We'll get to that later. And for me, I vowed I would not do that. So when my couples come in to talk, it's whatever is going on at the present moment. And that's the difference between coaching and therapy, is that coaching is very present moment and forward thinking. Therapy is present moment in the past. What are you going through now? Well, let's go into the past and figure out why it is affecting you the way it is right at this moment. That's fine. That's absolutely fine. I understand the value of therapy, without a doubt. But coaching, the possibilities, that moves you forward because you're not living in the past. You're living right here, right now, and you're looking forward into the future. How's that future going to be? Because as I said before, what we focus on expands. So if we keep focusing on the past pain, it's just going to continue to amplify. We don't want that.
Yeah, that's great. That's awesome. And so I know you mentioned that you do a lot of stuff on Medium, but you also mentioned to me earlier that you were over 100 podcasts.
Yes.
So you want to share your experience with that?
Oh, I love being a guest on podcasts. And I know that you have asked me, as well as many others, if I would actually be a host. I give you so much credit being a host. As a guest, I get to drop in. I get to see everyone, to be able to share my wisdom and my thoughts and hear such insightful questions from hosts. And I love the hosts that right off the cuff. There's no script. We're not reading things. There's no prep. It's just a conversation like we're having. Mm-hmm. I love that experience of being able to do so. So as a host, I know for me, I'd have to be prepared. I'd have to have my questions. I need to know the guest. And you have had 200 guests. Well, you've actually had 199 because this is now my second time. Mm-hmm. You have had to be prepped and ready to go. And I give kudos to you. I couldn't do it. I don't feel that I could do it. Also, for me, I really only talk on one topic. Yes, it's a broad topic, relationships, and I specialize in betrayal, but that's pretty much it for me. Mm-hmm. In your particular case, you have life's checkmark. Wow, I mean, there are so many possibilities. You can go in so many different directions with that. Hence the reason you're at number 200. And the sky's the limit. You can continue to go forward. It's not a situation where you run out of topics, because everyone has their own checklist of what they want to achieve, what they want to accomplish, what they're looking for in their life. And you provide that outlet to allow for your guests, including me, to come on and share.
Sure. No, thank you for the recognition there. But yeah, it's definitely a journey. It's, as some people out there are podcasters, it is hard work, but it's also rewarding on the other side. So as you probably already know, I'm sure you do, mine's just to inspire and encourage others to know they're not alone. And so you coming on, sharing about relationships and stuff, people aren't alone when they're struggling through their relationships. And so hopefully they can watch and listen to this and reach out to you. And, you know, is it just in Westchester you help people?
No, it's
Okay.
not. No, I have clients in Europe as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So you're all over.
I am definitely all over because relationships are universal. They just are. There might be a little nuances here and there, but for the most part, relationships are universal. They're global. And therefore I will help anyone that approaches me. I know that there's some that, you know, want to have a discovery call and kind of, you know, is this a good fit or whatnot? That's not for me. There's enough of a digital footprint that you can see how I am and you can try it. You can absolutely try it. One of the things that one of the gurus back in the day said, listen, you know, people feel better when they have a guarantee. So I have a guarantee. I put it on my website. If you book a session with me and after the 90 minutes you feel you got no value, I'll refund it. No problem. You'd be the first to ask for it. I'll tell you that. So with that being said, I just want to jump in with people. I don't need to know if I'm the right fit. However, I do stay in my lane. As I mentioned, I am not a therapist. I will not diagnose you. I will not write you a script for whatever is going on in your life. But if you need help and you need guidance and you need coaching, I'm the one for you.
That's great. So how can somebody connect with you, reach out to you?
It's just my name, Vanessa Cardenas. There is a hyphen, vanessacardenas.com or understandingear.com. That actually comes from my favorite quote, which is a Stephen King quote, of all people, really? But it was a beautiful passage in a book over 40 years ago. The hardest things to say are the most important things to say. They're locked within, not for the want of a teller, but for the want of an understanding ear. Hence, my URL is understandingear.com as well. And of course, if you Google my name, you'll find me.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to give you the opportunity to ask me questions because you mentioned it before. But before we get there, I'm going to ask you one more question. I already had you on the podcast. You answered my question. I ask everybody else. But I just want to ask you, if you don't mind just sharing, what's one of your values that you hold up to the most that you would love to share with everybody?
Integrity. Absolutely integrity. I say what I mean and I mean what I say. That's it. Absolutely. I hold myself the way that I so desperately needed when I was going through so much pain. And I do that for others. So definitely integrity. It's a good question. Thank you for asking.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Absolutely.
And
Is it my turn?
I'll give you the opportunity to ask. Yeah, go for it.
So much has changed between 100 and 200.
Maybe.
As you know, I love love. I absolutely love love. So would you share a little bit about your sweetheart?
Yes. What would you like me to share? What do you want to know?
I'm going to ask you the question that I ask my clients. Are you ready? Tell me 2 things you absolutely adore about her.
I love her support, and she keeps showing up in every way possible. Yeah. And she has a heart of gold. She really does.
Did you hear that? Good. Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. And if there's one thing that you could do to improve just this week in your relationship, what would you do?
To improve. I always want to work on being more present. And I'm not saying that I am out there all the time, but it's always something that I want to focus on. So, for example, driving, it's not the best time to talk about some things sometimes because we miss the turns, right? And so I have to, and as you know, I'm sure you do, working with men, we are focus driven, right? And so that's my problem. I was thinking of something else, going in a different direction in other ways. So working on that. You know, when's the right time to talk? And I know from listening to other stuff before, you know, and I'll use the road for an example, right? So when we're driving on roads and, you know, it's a windy road or whatever, you know, we don't know where we're going. We're focused on going down that road and navigating through that unknown course. We don't know what it is. But when we're more on an interstate and it's a straight line and, you know, we're 50 miles, okay, now's a good time. We can kind of open up a little bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
So being more present, you know, is something I always would try to work on no matter what.
I love that, and I want to expand on it if I could.
Okay.
Okay. Because just like you acknowledged that when you're on the windy road, not a good time to talk, but on a straight way, good time to talk. For your sweetheart, she heard that loud and clear as well. So she's going to make that effort as well. She's going to join in that responsibility to not engage in a conversation with you as you're driving on a windy, unknown road. But on a straightaway, she's going to ask before she starts, would this be a good time?
Mm-hmm.
So a joint responsibility. Are you both willing to do that?
Always working together. Yeah.
Perfect. Wonderful. Well, thank you for playing with me.
Sure, you got
Absolutely. Absolutely. So what's in store for the next 100 episodes of Life's Checkmark?
That's a great question. So I expanded first a little bit with the book, right? So I have 19 guests in there that are sharing a part of their journey, writing a chapter that is different from the podcast episode. So it's going to link back to the podcast episode, which will be online so they can watch and listen to it. Now they get a different perspective. You know, if it was Vanessa, like yourself, you know, they can read something different from what was mentioned in the podcast, and they can go both ways. So now they can hold it, and now they can start listening to podcasts. Maybe they can't find it, they don't like them or whatever, and they have a book. So I kind of expanded on that, right? So why is because it's a great way I was able to think of to bring my guests together. So there's something that we have in common, you know, being on Life's Checkmark podcast, encouraging and inspiring others. So that's number one, right? This is just book one of many. But I am excited to say that, you know, I have somebody in the UK, somebody in Greece, somebody in Canada, and everybody else is in the US. So that's been an awesome thing that has started since, I think, September last year. So we're looking to get it published May, maybe launch it, you know, late May, early June. And then so to expand on that for Life's Checkmark, besides the book, I would like to hopefully take it to stage somehow. And not so much the podcast, but the book itself and the guests, you know, to give them the opportunity to speak. Because I find some people, number one, with the book, they haven't written anything before, right? And there's sometimes people adding to it that I have already written, but maybe they haven't spoken before. So I want to give that space, that opportunity. What that looks like, I don't know yet, but, you know, I want to focus on that a little bit. Obviously, the podcast would just keep growing with what it is now, and I've seen it grow. I've seen it get to the point where now, you know, it's starting to make money and the audience, you know, but that's nothing I ever really focused on, right? It was just more about inspiring and encouraging others, and that's why I started, and that's why I'll continue to do it. But we'll reach more and more people, and I would love more people to find your journey, and Giselle's and Gordon's and Dave's and whoever else has been on my podcast, right? And hopefully reach the right people at the right time and change their life.
That's the key.
Yeah.
That is absolutely the key, what you said right there, to get to the right person at the right moment. And that's why it's so important for us to always talk. You might not need my services now. Your relationship might be really good. But if a crack forms before it really turns into a pothole, I heard that woman. She was on John's podcast. Yeah, she was on the milestone one. That was either 100 or 200 or at the time 300. Absolutely. You never know who you are going to meet. And just like Josh had no idea that when he served those two gentlemen in a cafe that he was working at in the Midwest, that one of them actually worked for the Jets. You never know who you're going to talk to. And sometimes it's not a direct connection, it's through. You now know me. You'll have a guest on your podcast who you sense is hurting. And you might say, hey, listen, I've had this guest on. You give her a call.
Yeah.
She might be able to help. So with 19 authors, is the goal 20?
We have 20.
You have 20.
20.
So 20 of your 200, well, 199 because I'm twice, have contributed to this beautiful book.
Right.
And this is the first. This is the inaugural one.
That's
Then
right.
as you do the next 100 podcast episodes, will be the next.
Anybody's welcome to come, previous guests or new guests.
Aha.
Yes. So Gordon has been, Giselle, they were previous guests, and you know, so they're part of the book.
Excellent.
So yeah, it's open up to everybody
Beautiful.
that's been a guest on the podcast.
So the rest of you have to get in touch to get into the next one.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Excellent. Can I ask you one final question?
Of course.
What's on your life's checkmark list?
Mine is to, so for me, and Giselle can contest this, my faith journey has grown so much. So reading different parts, and I'm not the best with the Bible yet, but where it talks about all the stars in the sky be, you know, that's how many descendants you would have, and the grains of sand on the beach, right? Like that's a lot. Like you can think it, like that's huge. So I would love to help as many as I can, and let those people that I don't even know who they are be the descendants, right? The stars in the sky, the sand on the beach, and you know, you might never hear from anybody, like comments and stuff. You know, people asking for help. You might not hear any of that, right? And you know, and that's where I want this. You know, this book is number one. You know, podcast definitely is where it's going to. But let's just take the book for example. If there's 20 people in there, and one chapter can help 30 people, like that's how I'm looking at it, right? I don't need to be connected to everybody, but we can be a beacon of light and hope in some way, somehow. So I don't know what that number is. I don't want it to be a number, but I just want it to reach as many people as I can. And I'll share with you too, Vanessa, that besides the book, besides being the host of a podcast, I would love to have more podcasters, because I don't know how much you talk with other podcasters, but not too many keep going, right?
Yeah.
And so 345,000 post one new every 90 days. Like that's not a lot out of the 4 million that are out there. Most of them are dead, but if you could just show up every week and have that support and the community around you, because I can only reach so many people with my podcast, but if there's a bunch of other podcasters that are interested in doing the same thing, or whether it's comedy or music, whatever that is, I don't care, but they're still trying to reach an audience, right? And if they just keep moving forward, they'll get to a point where it's going to be like a breaking point, and you're going to look like that it just happened overnight, and it didn't, right? I do have somebody in the group. Her name is Nell, in the Podcasters Hub, and she just shared with us the other day how she's getting a sponsorship, and she just went over episode 200, right? So it just takes time, and we don't know when that time's going to come. We all want it now, but it's all going to come in time. And for me, it's everything right now has been God's time, and I don't know what that looks like when that's going to happen. But long story short, that's where I want everything to go. It's just helping as many people as I can.
So one word to end this conversation with, what would it be?
Courage.
Good word.
Yeah, be courage.
What does courage mean for you?
Courage for me is the willingness to keep moving forward no matter what. To not let others tell you different, that you can't do what you want to do. Basically, step yourself away from the circle you might be already in, and reaching out to another circle. And as you hear probably on social media, there's that gray area, right? So you might be in that lonely spot of, navigating to another. And if you can break that, I think you're well on your way. And so it needs people like you, me, and everybody else in this room to help guide them and pull them in. So yeah, so courage would be my word.
I love it. I love it. John, thank you so much for the opportunity to be guest 200.
Mhm.
I'm going to ask you one final thing.
Keeps going, huh?
I know, it keeps going.
All right.
But this one's a selfish one.
Okay.
300?
300.
Me.
Already?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
counting on you to get to 300.
You got to make some big moves, big changes in the next year.
Can I share with you?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm going to speak at Harvard University in July. I think that's a big move. Wouldn't you agree?
And you were already
That's
at
a big
Oxford, right?
Yes, I was at Oxford University in April. It was an amazing experience, absolutely amazing experience. And it exploded on YouTube, which was a shock. It was bittersweet for me because the topic I spoke on was about your inner critic. And the fact that it resonated with so many people, I actually found sad. That people really connected to it because they felt that way too. They felt that they had an inner critic. But a great experience, and I can't wait for Harvard. I'm really, really excited. And that was on the tail end of speaking at Columbia. So universities, sweet spot.
Okay. That's
Absolutely.
cool. That's
John?
awesome. Yeah, thank you.
Great. Thank you so much.
Appreciate you coming out.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Amazing.